All right, well, today I wanted to talk about why watching sports is mostly a waste of time for many reasons. I used to watch college football and NFL pretty religiously. On Saturdays, I would plop down on the couch and just watch college football endlessly for the entire day. At the time, it was a good escape from the stresses of work, and then on Sunday, I would do it all over again. I'd plop down again and binge watch NFL games all day. I'd watch the 1 p.m. games, I'd watch the 4 p.m. games, then I'd watch the late night 8:30 games. And I genuinely enjoyed it at the time. It was escapism at its finest. But as I got older, I just don't enjoy it anymore. I'd rather be doing other things like creating content for YouTube, working out, hiking, maybe playing poker, shooting pool, or just really doing anything else that is a bit more productive, like coding. As I've gotten older, I've enjoyed creating and building things, and it just made me realize that watching sports is just overall a giant waste of time. Like, you get the dopamine rush, and sometimes it's fun to watch a game occasionally with some friends, but other than that, it's just pure time wasted when you could be doing something else, like learning a practical skill or creating content if you're into those. The only exception I would say is watching UFC fights. Like, I love watching the UFC cards. Those are definitely worth it in my opinion. I don't know if you guys have ever watched UFC fights, but they're just really fun to watch, and that'd be the exception to the rule now for me. But all in all of those hours watching sports could have been spent on something else that might be either more productive or just like more meaningful in your life. If you think about it practically as well, like, you're basically watching like grown men you don't know and will never meet play a game at the end of the day. Like, you're basically watching other people make millions of dollars, and you're getting all jazzed up, you're getting all excited when a touchdown happens or when a 3-point shot happens. Like, you get all pissed off when your favorite team doesn't win. Like, I felt all those emotions, but like now I just can't get excited even for a second for most sports outside of the UFC. When people at work bring up sports, I just kind of give like one word answers and don't really say much anymore. Whereas like years ago, I would be checking like the football stats, football NFL stats. I'd be looking at like, college football stats, basketball stats constantly. And it was honestly, looking back, it was just a huge waste of time. Like years ago, I would be like sports betting as well. Like, I'd be like during the week, I'd be like looking at all these like college football matchups, NFL matchups, and like I'd be looking at like what games to bet on. I'd be watching like sports betting YouTube channels, and like honestly, like it was just a huge waste of time. Like, looking back, I remember there was this kid that I used to work with that like lived and died by the Falcons, like the Atlanta Falcons. He was one of those guys that didn't grow up in Atlanta or Georgia, but would cheer on that team religiously. I've never understood people like that. Like, if you're born in a certain place, like you grew up in a certain state, and you just randomly like another team that's like across the United States, I'll never understand it. Like, honestly, whenever the Falcons would lose, he would be like super, super pissed off in his cubicle. And if someone were to like try and talk to him, he would be like, "Not in the mood, man. The Falcons lost. I'll talk to you next week if they win." And like, he would legitimately do this. Like, if they lost on a Sunday, like Monday through Friday, like this guy would just sit in his cubicle, like looking pissed off. Like, he would not talk to anybody. He'd still do his work, but anytime you would go near his computer, he just like turned his head and like he would not talk. But when the Falcons would win, like, he'd be like the happiest guy Monday morning. Like, he'd be walking in, he'd be like coming around to everyone's cubicle, like, talking about the game, talking to all the players, and like he'd be like striking up like random conversations. Like, he was a kid in the candy store. And like I said, he just went around to everyone's cubicle and he would just talk about the most random shit. It was hilarious. But like, this guy, he would like go to, like, he went to like a couple like away Atlanta Falcons games. He like got on a plane with his, like, I guess I don't know if it was his friends or whatever, but he would get on a plane, like, and he would just go to these like away games, and like he would just go across the country and like watch the Falcons. It was like the weirdest thing. And he would like, he'd paint his body, he'd paint his face, It was just crazy. Like, he was a diehard Falcons fan, and like, yeah, I'm not trying to make, well, I am trying to make fun of him, but literally, he let like a team of like grown men who he would never meet dictate how his day and his week went. I also think corporations and the government like when the masses watch sports. Like, honestly, it keeps them occupied, and the masses are hit with dopamine, especially on Sunday night, so they can get back to work on Monday. Like, when someone's team wins, it just makes it much easier for them to get up in the morning on Monday and drive into work, and they can be happy that their team won, and everyone else will be happy that day. And I guess it makes it kind of makes the work day a little more bearable. At least that's what I experienced in the past. But also, when the masses are watching sports, like, the government keeps the masses like minds away from what could really be going on in the world. Like, in regards to major sporting events like the Olympics or the Super Bowl, a lot of the time, like, the government will pass certain laws that may not have gotten through public scrutiny, but because the masses were like fixated on the big event, they were able to essentially get less backlash. That being said, I do enjoy every once in a while watching a football game with some good buddies, and every once in a while, like, going to the stadium to watch a baseball or a football game. Like, it does give you a sense of escapism, and it's fun to watch a game in the stadium every once in a while. Something can be said about the environment in the stadium where everyone's kind of in a good mood, and you have some beers, you're with your good friends, especially if it's like in the summertime and it's outside, like a baseball game as an example. But I just can't. I'm not someone who can just sit down at the TV anymore and like watch sports. I can't watch basketball. I don't watch college football anymore. Like, occasionally I'll watch NFL with my buddies, like, every once in a while. But like I said, if it's not a UFC fight, like, I'm not interested. If you genuinely do like watching sports, like, more power to you. But that's just my take. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. Feel free to comment down below your opinions on watching sports. And feel free to subscribe. Until next time, take care.